Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. His Dark Materials is the BBC HBO show about Lyra and her Gyptian pals. They're heading north to stop experiments and kidnaps of kids by the Magisterium and their friends, the controlling gobblers. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Grumpy Opinions. But for now, on with episode 4, Armour. The episode kicks off, understandably, in the northern port of Trollsund, where they have a chinwag with him off the mummy, and he turns out to be the spokesperson for the witches, and he's well impressed when Lyra uses her lithiometer to find something in the storeroom, and he passes a note on from Father Coram's old squeeze, Seraphina. Meanwhile, the cowboy airman who wrote Hamilton is in town looking for his pal. His pal turns out to be an armoured bear called Aurora.
You know what a bear looks like, don't you? Thick coat, big teeth, cute little nose.
But he isn't having an awful lot of luck. Neither of them are. Luckily, Lyra's also looking for an armoured bear, and she uses a bit of guile to find out from Hamilton what she needs to do to get Drinky the bear on side. But Father Coram and the Gyptian king aren't on side about it at all. They spoke to the witch's demon, and it looks like all-out war's going to come, so they want to get the hell out of Dodge as fast as possible. But Lyra goes ahead anyway, because that's what she's all about, and she tells the bear where his armour is, and he's off like a shot, ripping up the town, and then goes into the church and goes like he's going to kill all sorts of folk. But she stops him, and then he's on their side, and they agree to hire Hamilton as well. Looking good, guys, we've got ourselves a team. Meanwhile, back in Britain, Mrs C heads up to the Magisterium building to speak to the old duffer, and they're going to fire her because of her brass neck last episode. But she's like, "No mate, I've had a bunch of armoured bears go and capture Lord Asriel, so how about you let me keep my job, and then he's all yours." And they go, "Fine, okay then." So then she's off north as well, and she tells the big boss man King Bear that if he does what she wants, he can be the first ever baptised bear, and that cheers him up totally. Meanwhile, Bad Church is having a big thing with the guy who's allowed to use the lithiometer and wants to have the questions answered. So whatever's going to happen next. So what did I think? Well, this week things were really getting underway. And you've got the folk up in the northern climes, but we see the Magisterium's reach is kind of still big and bad up there as well, and that's interesting. And we've got everything going into motion, and they've made it really plain that witches and bears are actually on the other side from the heroes as well as on their side. And I think that's really interesting because it shows that everything's a bit of shades of grey. Not everybody's all goodies on one side and all baddies on the other. And this week, we also got Lin-Manuel, who's a proper modern stage and screen legend in the making. As I said, he's a guy from did Hamilton and all that stuff. And it was really good to see him. You might have also seen him in the Mary Poppins sequel that came out. And it was really good also to see Omar Jalili, who's a really well-kent face in the UK, because he's a stand-up comedian, he does a lot of comedy shows and stuff. Most people, as I said earlier, know him probably from the Mummy films. But there was also a fantastic bit of acting from James Cosmo, who's always reliable, the bit where he was talking about his dead son. I really enjoyed that. And I like that they're setting up this character of Serafina Pecola. Now, she's quite interesting. Obviously, she was played by Evie Green in the original film. I'm not sure who's going to be playing it in this, but it could be quite interesting. And they explained that the witches can actually send their demons far away. And that's a little something that bears considering. Also, how good was the armoured bear? He looked absolutely fantastic. And that was something I was really worried about because, budget and everything like that. Obviously this has a big HBO budget, but the film had film level effects because it was supposed to be the successor to the Lord of the Rings series, so they put tons of cash into it. This, I kind of thought probably wasn't going to actually have that good a budget on it, so I was well impressed. But to be honest, after last week's silliness, it hasn't really got me filled with that much enthusiasm this week. And this week kind of felt a bit plodding and bad. It kind of seemed dull at points. Last time I mentioned the Doctor Who factor, and this is kind of related. And in fact, let's clarify that. Let's just call it the CBBC factor. Because CBBC is the BBC's children's show department, see Children's BBC. But they do all the stuff that isn't proper wee baby shows and isn't standard potentially for adults growing up BBC stuff. Even though, as I've said before with Doctor Who and stuff, that can still be a bit cheesy in itself. But you see an awful lot of the CBBC problem with the latest season of Doctor Who. There was a lot of really, really cheesy stuff, a lot of what felt like bad acting and everyone just standing around, and it didn't feel naturalistic. It felt like a kid's TV show.
Are you Ed Sheeran? Is he Ed Sheeran? Everyone talks about Ed Sheeran roundabout now, don't they?
I am not Ed Sheeran. I am Jack Robertson, and this is my hotel.
And also we had the other problem where characters who are usually clever or adults suddenly start stupid and naive, mainly so that the kid in the show can outthink them. So they become cheesy stereotypes and caricatures of themselves. And at various points this week, Lyra just like won out in situations where she was talking to older, wiser characters. And I mean, most notably, the whole bit where she was nicking Hamilton's bacon. Now, that itself was kind of silly, but it also was a bit of a clanger at this moment because they kind of ruined the joke at the end because he not only like spells out the audience has seen she's taken the bacon all the way through the thing, so you really didn't need him to actually see it and then turn around and then say,
And she stole my bacon.
now, what we've learned from him on top of that is that he might be a really good thief, but he's clearly a bit of a moron. And on top of that, there was a really weird directorial choice where everyone in this episode walks around talking, or in Hamilton's case, actually shouting about what they're doing and their planning, usually to their demons, but things that they're going to do that they're kind of secret and stuff like that, usually when they're surrounded by tons of like extras milling around in the background. And it was kind of weird because, I mean, even God, Lyra wandered around just pulling out her alethiometer all over the place in the middle of town, and nobody said anything much until literally a policeman walked past, and then suddenly, like, Father Coram's like, maybe not. And the same kind of went for like back in the magisterium with the crooked cardinal guy. Now, the episode kind of establishes that Mrs Coulter actually has got bears, and they actually have captured Lord Asriel. But in that scene, I thought surely she's just making this up. Like, surely she's lying. She doesn't actually know, like, well enough that she could go straight in there and do that. And they would presumably know that she's somebody very capable of lying and capable of bending the truth. So why would they believe her? Do they not have spies who know this kind of stuff? But no, it turns out she's right. And she's just like, well, I've got this, so you're going to do everything I say. And they're like, okay. And that kind of felt a little bit naff. That's like really bad TV writing. Bad television is bad, and everybody knows what it feels like, and that's what this felt like. And that's kind of most of the stuff I have to say about this. As an episode, it felt a bit like the show's peddling water. There's a few big bits that seem to come a little bit too easy, like Lyra getting Yorick's armor. I can't remember exactly how that happens in the book. I think it's more or less the same. But another thing, she also said,
"It's in the cellar of the oratory."
And then he goes into the building and throws a guy out of the upstairs window. That's a mistake. And also, he's only armoured on the top of his face and the middle of his chest. I mean, that could have gone really badly if those guys had maybe aimed for the furry bits instead of the armoured bits of him. And that just, again, I sat and watched that and went, really? That's going to happen? I mean, if he just stormed out there, they hadn't actually got a shot off, that would have been fine. But no, it just looked cheesy and naff. And hopefully I'll have more to say next week, and hopefully stuff will actually happen next week, because I feel bad that I don't have much to say other than I was kind of annoyed and a wee bit bored this episode. So, till next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.